Hey guys, Refuge crew here, and today we're talking about being a more prepared American citizen and why it's important to train tactics with the homies. The main priority of the conversation is centered around you should be training. Now, how you train is really up to you and the homies, right?
Yeah.
We train a lot of different ways. We do a lot of different things. So today we're in our local shoot house. A lot of different locations have shoot houses. They're really easy to build. This is just made out of plywood and 2x4s. But building some sort of space that's safe to train and maneuver in tight quarters. And this is actually built after one of our friends' houses. This is replicated right now. So if we were to enter it, I know everybody's like, what? You would never need CQB, man. Well, okay, this is literally a homie's house, so if something bad happened, we would then know how to enter these different spaces, right? How we have entered them before tactically, and we get to try things.
But wait, nothing bad happens inside my house.
Yeah,
like,
no, dude, I'm safe.
In my house.
I'm safe in my house. That's
nobody's ever gonna like barge in unannounced and unwelcome.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Good.
So
stop peeking in here. So, for you as an American, there's a lot of different ways that you can be training. What we're going to talk about is 3 simple steps that you should be taking with you, your friends, your family, to just get a little bit more prepared. So the first thing, Phelps was actually talking about it earlier, is training to actually shoot. So we go over it all the time inside of Refuge training courses, is shoot, move, and communicate. These are 3 pillars in which, good fundamental small unit tactics are built on. So if you're not training with your firearm in an actual capacity, both in close range and long range, ability, then that's something that you need to focus on. And a really great way to do this, Heath and I was talking about it, is the Mantis Blackbeard system. Is a great program to get awesome dry fire training, awesome dry fire practice, and get feedback. Airsoft guns like this, while they're not great at long ranges, and there's always a drawback on anything that's not the real deal. These are great for blowback when you're working a trigger, especially if you get a higher end one. This is actually, that's a for sure SIG replica, correct? Yeah, so that's just like his real gun. He's actually got the same trigger that he has in his gun in this airsoft gun. So that gives him the ability. You want to fire it once for us so they can see the blowback?
Well, if that magazine wasn't empty.
Oh, he doesn't have a... So you have the actual blowback of the gun there, and it feels as though you're having to control some sort of recoil, right? It's not the exact same thing.
The weight of your mags is similar, the weight of the gun is similar.
Yeah, absolutely. So having some sort of way to consistently train on your firearms capability is going to be really important to be a prepared American, right? Sure. We have the Second Amendment. We have the right to defend ourselves. We have the right to bear arms, right? And so for you to be an American who is truly living out their fullest potential, their rights, which is being prepared, that involves shooting. That's part of it, whether it's for food, for self-defense, or whatever it may be.
The next thing we want to talk about is failures in your weapon systems itself. The main thing we really want to understand is redundancies are incredibly important. So if your batteries go dead in your optic, do you have another battery maybe in your pistol grip there? Or maybe you would need a backup iron sight, something that's just quick and easy, allows you to have a very quick and easy and natural transition. The next thing is, we see here that I have a relatively high riser under my red dot. So what that's going to do is when you're in a CQB situation, you need to understand that the height of the center of your optic, what we're talking about is height over bore, the bore being the center line of your barrel. That height over bore is going to throw your close zero off, meaning you're going to need to be aiming approximately 3 to 4 inches above your actual target, so that you need to be able to actually do that calculation in your head at a moment's notice.
And that also ties in regardless of the weapon system. So you pull your pistol out if you don't mind?
Absolutely.
The same height over bore and redundancy of sights applies to his pistol as it does to his rifle.
Right, absolutely, because just as this pistol right here has a red dot, center line, my optic is sitting right here, right? And so this is where I'm looking on this pistol. So if I'm shooting right here looking and my target is simply, 3-4 feet away, well, now I know that there's going to be a difference in that height overboard, so I have to adjust appropriately for my barrel to make sure that whatever's leaving, the projectile, whatever it may be, it's going where I planned it to go, where I trained it to go, rather than where I think it's going to go. We never want to think a projectile is landing somewhere. We want to be confident.
We want to know exactly where that round is going.
Right,
Absolutely.
we have to account for every single round that leaves these firearms.
And then you also have suppressor height sights as a redundancy, because you probably don't have a spare battery in the pistol grip that doesn't work with pistols so well.
Nope. So my sights, you can see, they go at a higher level so that I can see my sights through my optic glass. So that way, even if the optic does go down, which I doubt it would, but if it does, I still can refer back to those iron sights. And honestly, for shooting iron sights so long, my eyes usually go to those first anyways. I'm like, oh yeah, use the dot, dummy.
Yeah.
The dot's great for night. That's what it's good for.
Brilliant.
Yeah, redundancies. And you can even take it steps beyond that. Explore a PACE plan, right?
Yep.
Primary, alternate, contingency, emergency.
For sure.
But yeah, definitely have some sort of redundancy, even if it's just a single layer.
2, 3, 4. After a day of training, you should be exhausted. You should be sweaty, you should be out of breath, you should be tired. And that comes back to what is the second pillar, which is move. Phelps brought up a great point earlier. The thing that's most likely to fail, the tool that's most likely to fail in you with your gear, it's your body. Especially if you're not training, if you're not pushing yourself physically, you're not pushing your cardiovascular, your respiratory, your mental and emotional health, all those things. Yeah, absolutely.
Try to turn a corner, there goes your knee or your ankle.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you stretching? Everybody wants to be a cool guy until it's time to do cool guy stuff, and cool guy stuff usually is like stretching and lifting for the most part. You gotta be very, very limber. Ability to take a lot of weight and not damage your body is huge. And so
functional fitness.
Movement is great, right? We should be very, very in tune with each other's movement. I should know what Heath is gonna do. He should know what I'm gonna do. We should know how to support each other, and we're always getting better at that. But before the team movement, it's individual movement.
Yeah.
And are you able to competently move as an individual, and is your team able to move competently as individuals? Because then and only then are you going to be able to really come together as a cohesive, capable unit. Whether that's a mag, whether that's a family, whatever it may be. So get out there, do hard stuff, train.
And there's lots of resources that you can find for what, again, we talked about building your SOP, right? There's a lot of resources out there about footwork, body manipulations. Look those up, figure out what's going to work for you and your fitness level.
Yeah. What did he say?
What?
What did he?
What?
I can't hear him.
Can you figure out what he's saying?
So now we're going to talk about communication. You go ahead and repeat that last transmission.
Oh, my bad. I forgot I had a radio.
What were you saying?
Yeah, if you turn around, he's right behind you.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, communication is a huge asset for anybody who's working in a team capacity. Whether it's a radio, whether it's the old-fashioned cell phone, or hand signals, smoke signals, carrier pigeons, humans have been figuring out ways to talk to each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And talking to each other in a tactical context is pretty dang important, because the last thing you want to do is accidentally shoot your buddy.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that communication only happens when it's bidirectional.
Yeah.
Right? Otherwise, I'm just talking to someone.
If it's not
That's
received.
not the same, right? So if I'm like, Bob, I'm moving over here, but he doesn't tell me that he heard that, then I don't know it. And so there's a very good reality that he may not have heard me. He may have been keyed in on something else. Maybe his ear pro batteries died, whatever, right? And I end up over here by myself because nobody knows I went over there. Communication is a two-way street.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to be looking for confirmation of send, as well as we have to be looking for some sort of receiving message back from them saying, hey, you know, I got what you sent, or I didn't get what you sent. Can you resend it? You know.
Not to mention, it's important to keep it short, keep it concise. Brevity is what we call it, right? In the tactical sense, right? But as much as we love to wax turds have proverbially hit the fan, right?
Yep.
I don't want to be sitting here carrying on, hey, so I think that corner of the building is the best place for me to go set up to then support you all as you go in this door over here. And then, you know, it's in the shade also,
right.
so like that'll be nice in case you take your time and right, no, it's
can't be
like, I'm
having
moving to the
a long-
corner, go when you're ready,
Yep,
right?
you can't be having a long
More word
conversation.
when many word too long, less word make better.
Make
Or gooder.
Few word do good trick.
Yes.
That's the Office quote, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. So we're gonna go inside and we're gonna show you guys a couple of easy ways to communicate non-verbally as well inside of a CQB context. All of this can be picked up online, easy, free resources, and there's a bunch of different ways that you can modify it to fit you, right? Because this isn't the Army, this isn't the Marine Corps, this isn't you know, some militarized unit. This is friends working together to be more prepared to respond to an emergency in their own lives, whether that's a burglary, whether that's crime, whether that's civil unrest, whether that's, you know, a mountain lion got in your house, man. You know, sometimes you gotta be prepared.
And what that's called is establishing SOP, standard operating procedures for you and your homies.
Yep, absolutely.
Because you're not a military unit, and hey, you know what? The Army has a really good way of communicating, the Navy has a really good way of communicating, the Marines have a really good way of communicating, and maybe the Air Force too. So, they're good people. But none of them are you, right?
Right. Yeah.
Probably. You're going to have to come up with your own. Well, the beauty of that is you get to pick and pull from it as you wish,
Yep,
right?
for sure.
Build what works for y'all.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do, guys, inside is we're gonna talk about some handed arm signals that you can use in context to small unit tactics for you. These are our versions of them. These are our SOPs. Everybody's is a little bit different. Everybody's gonna use different stuff, right? What I recommend you do is you go ahead and look up some examples through Army handbooks or different handbooks that have existed throughout time, show you, you know, militarized hand signals, arm signals, and all that. This is great for nonverbal communications, not just inside of tight spaces like this, but if you're on a patrol and you're trying to be quiet, if you're on a hunt and you're trying to be quiet, we do that all the time, just working out in the woods. You know, hey, we don't want to talk because, you know, noise discipline is a thing.
Yep.
And so what we're going to do is Phelps will go ahead and be our one man, and then Heath will go ahead and be our two man. And we're just going to show them, you know, non-verbally communicating, and I'll point out a couple of things that they're doing, why it's an asset, and why it's something that you could do to train super easily. So go ahead, guys. Let's go ahead and make entry to a door. So you see the rally point, right? He gave the call for the rally where it's located. So you see that movement call.
Up to that door.
You see as they come down. Watch their stack, he calls for one up. Close door, entry in, right? All this is happening with nonverbal communication and also training, right? There's a bunch of different ways that you can do it. And so with that, when you stack back up at the door, there's also squeeze methods, right? Where you can give calls instead of one up. So Heath can come up. And so he gave a double squeeze, pull door, and in, right? There's a lot of ways to skin this cat. And the thing that we have to understand is fighting inside of closed spaces is really dangerous. This is where we see the highest attrition rates in military history. So this means that this is something that we should probably be training if it's in a law enforcement context or a military context, okay? So they gotta get low, right? All of these communications are huge, right? Or maybe we need to do a freeze, and so come this way and do a freeze.
Good.
Right? And we know that in a freeze we have to stop movement and sync, right? And that's always gonna be pretty much universal as a freeze, right? And you have halt. And so this is something that every American can be doing. You can be doing it with your wife, you can be doing it with your kids, you can be doing it in really easy ways. And it's also a great way to grow closer together because what happens in nonverbal communication at some point is assumption. And to have an accurate assumption, you have to know someone and you have to be familiar with them. And so if I have to know the difference of, you know, if we're using a squeeze method to confirm preparation for entry, I have to know the difference between that and that. I have to know what a squeeze feels like from him and how he feels in the stack. There's a lot of uncommunicated, non-communicated information that happens in close fighting, especially in a small unit tactic. So you, as a prepared American, need to be constantly training with the team. Whoever the team is, whether it's your 3 best friends from middle school, whether it's the homies that you served with in Afghanistan, whatever,
or your neighbors, right? Maybe it's the 3 dads around you that have something to lose. And they're willing to put the time and effort in.
Absolutely. Maybe it's the mutual assistance group that you put together because you saw people talk about it on the internet. All these are great resources, but if you're not actually training, if you're not actually communicating both verbally and non-verbally in a tactical setting, do not expect to do well inside of a tactical setting.
We say that all the time in class. You do not rise to the level of your expectation, you fall to the level of your training.
That's right.
Yeah. And remember guys, with this type of stuff, if this content is what you're enjoying, this is what you feel like you're needing in your life, get a hold of us over at Refuge Training or with the Refuge Academy. We would love to talk to you guys more in depth about training opportunities for you and how to build more sustainable plans for your family. So go ahead and hit us up at Refuge Academy or Refuge Training. And as always, we love you, and please carry an effing tourniquet.
Stay blessed.